Imagine a world where the laws of physics apply to you, but the laws of the land don't. For 30 years, one man ran a global empire of secrets. He had the money, the islands, and the most powerful friends on Earth. Everyone thought those secrets died with him in a jail cell in 2019. They were wrong. The files are open, the names are out, and the impossible truth is finally being dragged into the light. This isn't just a true crime story. This is a map of how power actually works. Free Epstein. To the outside world, he was a high-flying financier, a science philanthropist, and a friend to the most powerful people on the planet. But behind the velvet curtains and the private island retreats, a dark reality was festering. Epstein wasn't just a billionaire. He was the architect of a massive international trafficking network that operated in broad daylight for over 20 years. To understand the Epstein files, we first have to understand how he built his shield. In the 1980s and 90s, Epstein cultivated an image of extreme intelligence and even more extreme wealth. He surrounded himself with social trophies, presidents, prime ministers, and tech giants. By associating with the elite, he created a layer of social immunity. This wasn't just about fame, it was about leverage. Epstein's world was built on secrets. He recorded everything. He kept meticulous logs of who visited his homes and who flew on his private Boeing 727. This data wasn't just for organization. In the world of high-stakes power, information is the ultimate weapon. In 2008, the justice system faced its first major test. The evidence against him was staggering. Dozens of survivors had come forward with detailed accounts of abuse. Any ordinary person would have faced a life sentence. But Jeffrey Epstein wasn't an ordinary person. Epstein secured what is now known as a non-prosecution agreement. He pleaded guilty to much lesser charges, served only 13 months in a local jail, and was allowed to leave for 12 hours a day for work. This moment represents a two-tier justice system. Fast forward to 2019. Epstein is arrested again, this time by federal prosecutors, shortly after he dies in his jail cell. The world thought the story ended there. Because of a civil lawsuit filed by survivor Virginia Giuffre, a mountain of documents began to be unsealed, meaning they were made public by a judge. These are the files. They consist of over 2,000 pages of depositions, flight logs, and email chains. When the internet saw these files released in early 2024 and 2025, the reaction was explosive. People looked for names. They looked for the list. But the truth is more complicated than a simple list of villains. The files contain hundreds of names. Some are suspects, some are witnesses, and many are simply people who were mentioned in passing. For students, this is where media literacy becomes your most important tool. When the files hit the news, social media was flooded with misinformation. Lists were shared claiming certain celebrities were clients, when in reality those names only appeared in the documents because a lawyer asked a question about them. On one side, you have the facilitators, people who actively helped him. On the other, you have people who might have attended a dinner party without knowing the dark reality. Lost in the headlines about famous names is the most important part of the story. The survivors. For 2 decades, these young women were ignored by the police, silenced by lawyers, and dismissed by the media. The release of these files isn't just about leaking secrets, it's about validation. Every document unsealed is a piece of evidence that says, you were telling the truth. The Epstein case forced the world to look at how we treat victims of trafficking. It led to new laws, like the Child Victims Act, allowing survivors to sue their abusers even decades later. So why does this matter? You are the next generation of lawyers, journalists, and voters. The Epstein files are a case study in institutional failure. They show what happens when wealth is allowed to bypass the law, but they also show that, eventually, the truth has a way of coming out. As we move further into the 2020s, the Epstein effect is changing how we hold powerful people accountable. It reminds us that justice shouldn't depend on how many zeros are in your bank account. In a true democracy, the law must be a shield.